Good morning, everyone, and thank you for all of you for dialing in today to talk about our 10 things you must know about mandatory reporting. Basically, the issue with mandatory reporting really has taken a heightened awareness subsequent to the Jerry Sandusky child abuse scandal at Penn State. And the claims against public entities in California has been on a meteoric rise ever since. We're seeing settlements and verdicts surrounding these losses escalating at an extremely rapid pace and consistently reaching and exceeding $1 million per claim. What we're seeing is the California Superior Court juries being punitive in their message, and their verdict decisions make it clear that these incidents aren't tolerable, especially in instances where there have been appearance of failure to act or recognize such abuse. The common denominator we're seeing for liability exposures and high claim severity has been the district failure to act and report upon a notice of complaint to local law enforcement and/or Child Protective Services. In a case where complaints have been made, quite often the districts are conducting internal investigations without reporting. This is in direct violation of the California Mandatory Reporter Law and thus subjects the entity and self-insurance pool to liability exposure with little to no defense. In addition to the fiscal impact on districts and self-insurance pools, the human resource costs of these claims have significant reaching impacts in terms of district management and employee time required in the litigation process. Also, there's negative media attention and the defense of the district's and management reputation in the court of public opinion. National research has concluded that less than 10% of abusers are ever caught or identified. Currently, the state of California requires districts to have employees acknowledge and sign off at the time of employment that they are a mandatory reporter. That is the extent of the requirement. There is currently no requirement for volunteers, nor is there any training requirement for district employees under state or federal law that addresses mandatory reporting. What we're seeing now is local law enforcement and district attorneys have started to take criminal action against district employees that fail to report under mandatory reporter laws through prosecutions for failure to report. Our ultimate goal is to educate districts, to get all district employees trained annually on mandatory reporting and increase the awareness on this serious issue so that frequency and severity of claims is reduced. Keenan has developed the following simple and effective training tool resource for districts to use and implement. I'm now going to turn this over to Kathy Espinosa to demonstrate just how simple and easy this training can be. Kathy?
Thank you, Ron, and thank you all for joining us this morning. I know we have many districts on here as well as many public agencies because Parks and Rec, there's a lot of entities within the municipality world that deal with children. So this is applicable to all. All right, let's go ahead and get started. The 10 things you must know about mandatory reporting. Number 1, you are a mandated reporter. Anyone who works for the organization should keep their eyes and ears open to protect children. This has to become a culture shift in our society today. With safety, years ago, we used to push the fact that we need to wear seatbelts, we need to wear seatbelts. But we've raised a generation where you get in the car and you put on a seatbelt. There's just a culture shift. It's just what we do now. The same thing with reporting what we see or what we suspect. You know, whether it all takes a village, we are all in this together with one goal. And that goal is to protect the children from abuse and from misconduct. So no longer is it, hey, it's not my problem. You are a mandated reporter. Reporting suspected child abuse is part of your job. Not reporting suspected child abuse can create a liability for your organization and for yourself. Again, our primary goal is to keep our children safe. So anyone listening is a mandated reporter. Number 2, what is reportable? If you reasonably suspect any of the following, you need to report it. This would include child abuse, neglect, physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual activity between a minor and an adult, unjustified punishment, unlawful corporal punishment, willful cruelty. Oftentimes we hear people say, I didn't report it because it was just a rumor. When it comes to rumors, if you are unsure, it is always best to err on the side of caution. Report it and let the agency investigate it and make the final conclusion. Don't hold it to yourself, figuring it is not my problem, it's none of my business, I don't need the drama. If you are suspecting it, reasonably suspecting it, whether it's rumor or you're actual seeing it, err on the side of caution, get in and report it. Number 3, when and where do I report? The answer to that is immediately or as soon as possible. There are 2 actions that have to be taken in order to report suspected child abuse. First and foremost, as soon as possible, by phone. You want to call your local child protective services in your area or your local police or your local sheriff's department. I've had people ask, can we report to both? Yes, a best practice might be report it to both. You cannot get in trouble for that. No harm on doing that. Please note that reporting it to school police does not qualify. So we're asking that by phone, the law says local child protective services or your local police or local sheriff's department. The second action you must take is that you have to submit a written follow-up report within 36 hours by fax or by email to the same agency you contacted by phone. So, remember, telling your supervisor does not satisfy your obligation to report. Telling the school police does not satisfy your obligation to report. 2 actions. One is by phone, Child Protective Services or the local police, has to be followed up with a written report within 36 hours. Number 4, where do I find this report? This report is also called Form 8572. It is called the SCAR report. SCAR stands for Suspected Child Abuse Report. You can find this on the Child Protective Services website. I've got the address up there for you, but it should be on the website of your district or your organization. Okay? It's a very simple form to fill out, and what you'll need is your name and the child's name, the location of the child. Where are they typically? What school do they go to? What grade are they in? Who are the involved parties? What happened? Why do you have the concern? As a best practices, you may want to keep a record of the date, the time, and the person you spoke to when filing that report. Okay. Number 5, can I share this report with others? Can I give a copy to my coworker? The answer is no. The report can only be given to certain designated entities. Number 1, the report should be only given to the agency that you called into. So it can only be given to the police or the sheriff's department or Child Protective Services. If your organization has got a policy on who is designated, if you have a report, then you can only give it to those designated people. This might mean in a school district that they said it's okay to give it to a superintendent or the assistant superintendent. In a public agency, it may be the human resources administrator. But do not give the report to any others without consulting legal counsel, or you may lose your immunity. Number 6, am I protected? What is your protection as a mandated reporter? Confidentiality. Your identity will be kept confidential. Know that if the case is criminally prosecuted, if they investigate and it goes to criminal prosecution, then your identity most likely will be disclosed. You also have immunity. Mandated reporters have immunity under California law from civil and the criminal liability for reporting suspected child abuse. So again, we need to report this stuff. We need to change our culture and realize we are all the eyes and the ears and the method of protecting our children. Number 7, what if I choose not to report? Not my business, don't need the drama. The answer to that is a mandated reporter who knowingly and willfully fails to report is guilty of a misdemeanor. And this is punishable by up to 6 months in jail, a fine of $1,000, or both. Other possible implications of knowing about child abuse, suspecting it, and failing to report it would be a loss of your license, could be a loss of your credential, a civil lawsuit, and the loss of your job. So if you suspect it, you need to report it. Number 8, you need to remember that you signed a statement. Those working with and around children are required to sign a statement that they've got knowledge of their mandatory reporting requirements and obligations. You must remember your signed document is in your personnel file, and this document states that you, as an employee, you know that reporting suspected child abuse is part of your job. And you know that it's your obligation to go ahead and report any misconduct or any child abuse. Number 9, here are a few common sense tips on self-protection. Okay, we want to avoid a situation that could lead to fraudulent allegations of any kind of inappropriate conduct. So, avoid child contact that involves hugging and touching, grabbing or rubbing or massaging. Okay, these are just asking for trouble. Okay? When privacy with children is necessary, leave the doors and windows open whenever possible. Closed windows, closed doors can put doubt into somebody's mind and make it more than it is. So always, transparency is best. For teachers, classroom arrangements should not have a sectioned off area for privacy. Okay? These are just a few tips on how to help you avoid a situation that can lead to a fraudulent allegation. If you need more information on your duty to report or any other information on suspected child abuse reporting, the California Department of Social Services has a website that has a lot of information. You can find information on the Child Abuse and Neglect Reporting Act, and this is also called CANRA. You may hear that word often. And the California Child Abuse and Neglect Reporting Law has got an Issues and Answers for Mandated Reporters section, and I've put the link to that PDF up there as well. Bottom line, we all have to remember, It is your obligation not to ignore child abuse and misconduct. Report it to the proper authorities. Kenan has just put out a free resource for the entire community because we believe in this issue, whether it's public agency, school district, anybody that is working with children. We have got an abuse prevention center that is free online, and it has certain trainings that are available, like sexual misconduct, staff to students, a course on mandatory reporting, boundary invasion, but we also have many resources there. We have got best practices that you can see, which gives you a good overview of the measures to put in place. We have got posters that you can download on how to report and who to report to. These posters are in English, they are in Spanish, and they have got fillable areas where you can type in the phone number to your local Child Protective Services, put in a phone number to your local police department, so they don't have to go online and fumble around. If you want to put it in every parks and recreation facility that you have, in the library, so people can easily get to those people that in order to report any suspected child abuse or misconduct. So these are links here that can be downloaded and easily fillable. Okay, at this time, I am going to go ahead and turn it back over to Ron Martin, who will be handling our question and answer period that some of you have typed in. Ron?
Yes, thank you, Kathy. So far, let's see what we have here. Question: what if a mandated reporter observes something outside of the school setting? Are they still obligated to report? What if they don't know the parties involved? That's a very good question, and the answer to that is there is no obligation if you're outside of the course and scope of your employment in regards to being a mandated reporter. However, you know, if you observe some sort of illegal activity, it doesn't hurt to notify the proper authorities. The second question: can a mandatory reporter be under the age of 18? Again, that's a very good question, and that's one that's going to require a little bit of research on our part. That's something that I currently don't have an answer to, but can provide that later on. Let's see, what else do we have? We are librarians working in a public library. We have no document that says we are mandated reporters. We do not act in loco parentis or do programs that allow parents to leave kids with us. How do we determine if we are mandated? My recommendation in this particular case would be to have a discussion with your human resource department or the department that is responsible for hiring the librarians and get clarification. If you're a public employee under the mandated reporter laws and you're being, paid for those services, then you're a mandatory reporter. If it's a volunteer situation, you do not fall within the law. Another question. There have been occasions when I suspected a teen boy is having inappropriate behavior with an underage girl, but they are living in her parents' house. Should this be reported to the authorities? I would venture to say always err on the side of caution, and if you've suspected or see that there's some inappropriate behavior, you should go ahead and report that information to the police and/or Child Protective Services. Next question. is there a definition for unlawful corporal punishment and or unjust punishment? The corporal punishment statute can be researched under the Penal Code 11165, and actually the Penal Code sections can be referenced, Penal Code sections 11164 through 11174.3. They can be accessed through the internet at www.leginfo.ca.calaw.html, and we can post that information as well.
Hi, Ron. This is Kathy. All the penal codes that are related to mandated reporting and child abuse can be found on the Abuse Prevention Center under Frequently Asked Questions. So I'm going to go ahead. I just popped up that link again, and that is another great resource on this site.
Okay, and thank you, Kathy. And it looks like the final question is, what could we do if an employee refuses to sign the statement? It's my understanding as part of the hiring process that all employees need to sign the statement that they're a mandated reporter. If not, I would refer that to your General Labor Council for a final decision on that question. So that is all the questions that I see up on my screen. I'd like to thank everybody that participated in today's webinar. Again, I think that this tool basically is relatively simple in process, and obviously from a disclaimer standpoint, Keenan & Associates is an insurance company and a brokerage and consulting firm. We are not a law firm or an accounting firm. We do not give legal advice or tax advice. Neither this presentation, the answers provided during the question and answer period, nor the documents accompanying this presentation constitutes or should be construed as legal or tax advice. You are advised to follow up with your own legal counsel and or your tax advisor to discuss how this information affects you. But again, I would like to thank Kathy for presenting the information, and all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules today to participate in this webinar. Thank you very much.